Hi, my name is Will Courtney, and welcome to Complete Connected Care. At Circle Health, we use the phrase Complete Connected Care a lot. But what does that mean to you? Well, at Lowell General Hospital and across the Circle Health system, including Circle Health Westford, we want to do more than just provide the best care for you close to home when you're injured and sick. We're also collaborators, partnering with doctors, healthcare agencies, and social service agencies to keep everyone healthy across the communities we serve. That includes being a leading voice and partner in the fight against the opioid epidemic and substance use in general. With us today to talk more about that is Ray Peachy, who many of you know is Substance Use Coordinator here in Westford. We'll be right back with Ray. Welcome back. We're here with Ray Peachy, Substance Use Coordinator here for the town of Westford. Ray, thank you so much for coming.
No problem. Thank you.
So today we're here to talk about substance use. It's such an important issue across our towns. It's such an evolving issue. Ray and I were speaking before the show here a little bit about how Westford is not what you consider your a town that has drug issues, substance use issues, but of course no town is immune from that.
Correct.
And you've had a long career here. Tell me a little bit about how you came to Westford. I know you're a resident, former policeman, and then grew into this substance use coordinator.
Yes, I'm a retired police officer. Worked 25 years in the Westford Police Department. During that time, towards the end, when the DARE program was available, I did that for approximately 8 years, and I'd go into my main focus was the 5th grade students and go in and do self-esteem, say no to drugs, and try and get them prior to they get to middle school when their mind starts changing really different. Mm-hmm. And but then I also worked with all the schools, on the same idea. Back then, it wasn't so much drugs that we were worried about, it was more into alcohol. Mm-hmm. So,
and that was an issue, right? I mean,
yes,
especially teen drinking and driving. What were some of the things you would run into on a shift, or drunken driving, things like that?
Drunken driving, parties. The kids had no problem with having a party. Right. I mean, I remember one year we had a multiple fatal accident in town. And the students were intoxicated and drunk, and they all died. And the next night I go in the woods because I see some activities, and then they are having, other kids are having another party. And
that's what they do. They'd go out into the woods, right?
It's like, don't you see what this can happen? Yeah. But, they have this, it can't happen to me.
And that hasn't changed.
That has not changed.
There's something about being a teenager and thinking you're invincible, and there's something about being a parent that sort of blinds you a little bit to your child's flaws or weaknesses, or maybe just exposure to risks. When did you see a shift away from, marijuana was probably a little bit of an issue.
It was a little bit of an issue back then. It was more of a serious issue back then, actually.
Yeah.
And I would actually, no matter what amount of marijuana, if I caught a person, I would actually, summons them to court or arrest them. Mm-hmm. And the first offense was just probation for 6 months. But then I had something over them. Maybe the second time they think about that.
Yeah.
All right. And then that's how I dealt with it. Other officers dealt with it differently. But it's just progression: alcohol, marijuana. And now we're into opiates, and vaping's a very big problem now too.
And I think we're just sort of seeing the beginning of that as we try to figure out how to battle that.
Yes.
So when you became substance use coordinator 8 years ago, what were you hoping to accomplish? What interested you in it? Obviously, things had changed since the DARE years.
Yes. Yeah. No. Just hoping. I like to focus more on to the parents than to the students, let's say. Okay, the students, they do have this. They get this in school. Westford Academy, one of the first systems in the state that introduced the Botvin Life Skills program, which is similar to the DARE program, only it's different, but it's similar, okay? But that's one that goes throughout the whole school system, and they've implemented that, and so they're going to get that. But the parents seem to say, not my child, and that's not just in drugs, it's in everything, you know, that they don't want to see that there's a problem with their child. Nobody does. You know, and my poor kids, now that they're 44 and 41, I believe, you know how strict you were with me? I said, yeah, but don't you see, you know what I mean, see what I did?
Right.
You know, I mean, they knew if they got caught at a party, you know, it wasn't going to, there was going to be problems, you know.
Well, and when you get into your, you know, I'm in my 40s and I look back at the high school days, and some of the guys that were the heaviest drinkers back then are still the guys who are still fighting it now. And all those habits start at a young age.
Oh, yes, they do.
Looking back at the DARE years, because I think some of us who were in school when that was an issue, you know, we look back and there's varying opinions, but there were things that worked with it and things that maybe now we look at differently. When you look back, what was the good part and the bad part of that?
Well, back then, I mean, scare tactics was the main thing. And I look back to driving school. I mean, the films that I saw are the fatals, and they were gross.
Yeah.
Well, now we can't show those to the children, or the kids, the teens. And or take them to the prisons, or have them talk to some of these prisoners. And they still do, but the prisoners aren't as harsh as they were. You know, so they found out, you know, it's not just enforcement. It's enforcement and education. They both have to work together.
Just say no is a little maybe too simple of a solution, and
yes.
we've learned. Ray and I both attend the DA's opioid task force
yes.
at Lowell General Hospital every month. He does several collaborations across the town and across the region. That's how we're attacking this effort now, I think,
yes.
from all angles. We're talking a little bit about the DA and recognizing some of these signs of trauma and things. What are some of the things you try to communicate to parents in terms of signs and
well,
things?
The main thing I try is please don't say not my child.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't have to be all over them, but at least be there, and, you know, every once in a while that room is in your house. You know, and I have big feelings that you're allowed in that room.
Yeah.
You know, go in the room, check it out, check out what's going on in there.
You're allowed in their yes. phone, I would presume. You know, I mean, who are they? Especially at a certain age.
You're paying for that phone.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and there's all different ways of keeping track of what's going on in the phones. Look at the kids that they hang around with.
Right.
Okay.
Understand who are they hanging around with, right?
Exactly. Know where they're going.
Right.
You know, and it's still nothing wrong with saying, I just want to make sure, you know, that my son's coming over to your house with your son, and I just want to make sure somebody's going to be there, or, you know, what's going on, you know, and some parents appreciate that.
Right. I feel like maybe this is sort of the gift of hindsight, but it was harder to hide back in the day, you know, yes. back when I was a kid, and if we had a couple of beers at a party or something, I was scared to death that somebody would smell it on my breath. If we went before a dance, and you know, same with marijuana, you know, you can smell it. There's
yes.
that distinct smell. Now it's pills. Now it's vapes. Now it's easier to hide.
So much easier.
The signs are different, and we see obviously the result of opioids can go from pills. The typical pattern is often somebody's on painkillers, they get addicted, they can't afford the painkillers anymore, so they turn to heroin, and their brain is now rewired. We talked a little bit about is it a disease? Is it a symptom of? Is it a weakness? What's your opinion?
It is a disease, and, you know, I mean, my thing is if they're not addicted to it because they had an injury and they got used to it, if they just started taking it, then no, at that point it's not a disease, okay? But when they get over to here, where they're addicted to it, that is a disease. It's not something that you can say, I'm just going to quit. You know, it's like smoking. How many people try to stop smoking?
And they just can't, yeah.
It's the hardest thing to do. And so is getting rid of the addiction. It's in your body. Your body needs it.
And even those people you talk to, recovered addicts, recovering, and I don't think anybody considers themselves a recovered addict when it comes to opioids, the voice is still there, and they're constantly battling that. And obviously alcoholism is, people need to go to meetings for years and years to stay off of that, and we now understand that our brains, we can't control everything our brains do. So we talk about collaborations, and at the hospital, obviously, we see a lot of this. We're the ones, often the doctors, who are prescribing the opioids, and so now surgeons are doing opioid-sparing surgery. If you're getting a knee surgery, if you're getting something where you're going to need some painkillers afterwards, they're trying to do it where they numb it up, and so you might have to go home with 1 or 2 pills. You're not sending somebody home with 30 pills. We have mothers who are coming in who are exposed to this. Their newborn children are exposed to this, and we're trying to help them through that. But obviously, there's the idea is to get upstream on this and try to attack this.
Beat it ahead of time. One of the way back when, and there's a couple of different stories, but the doctors were just prescribing them, but that was what they were taught.
Pain control is a significant quality indicator for a doctor. If you have a doctor who's not controlling your pain, you don't like that doctor.
You won't go back to him.
Yeah, right.
Okay? So, and doctors did not have to take any addiction courses. So they had no idea. Well, I'm sure they had some, but they had no real idea of what's going on. And Governor Baker actually had a law passed that now in the Massachusetts schools, they have to take a course or 2 on addiction as part of their medical treatment, which is great.
Right.
And I mean, I do see, with our laws as well, if you go on Friday night, you don't get 30 pills. You get enough to get you through the weekend, and then you have to see your primary. Oh, and they don't give you the 30 anymore either. They try cutting it down.
Absolutely. And another step they put in, we just at Lowell General got into a prescription tracking system. So you can't doctor shop. You can't say, well, I've got my pills here, but I'm going to go to this doctor and he'll give me that. They're now tracking all prescriptions. So it makes it much more difficult for that person to go.
As well as the drugstores are doing that too now. We're trying to get them in. It's I don't believe it's still mandatory, but most are into it. They John Smith, they look it up. You just had a prescription 2 days ago over at Joe's Pharmacy. So, and this will cut down, hopefully,
Is there a program here in town, and I'm presuming there probably is, that you can, if you have old opioids in your cabinet, you can take them somewhere?
Yes, there's the police station has it for pills. There's one kiosk for pills. There is another kiosk for shops, needles, which is important. We also we've purchased some, they're called Deterra bags, Deterra pouches, I'm sorry. And what it does is you get the bag free, you come and we'll give it to you, and this one will hold up to 15 pills. Some of the bags are up to 45, but they get more expensive. So we had to go for a grant to try and get these. You rip the top open, and you open it. You put your opiates in it. You put the amount of water, it'll tell you what to put. Seal it back up. Wait 30 seconds, seal it back up, and then you can throw it in the trash. And in a matter of time, a short matter of time, all the opiate within the pill is gone. And it's all biodegradable.
Yeah.
So you just do this and throw it in your trash, so you don't even have to have them. Well, I know these are out of date, but I'm not going to the police department right now, so I'll keep them here, and I'll keep them here. And
I think it's an important message for seniors, because I know my older parents, that if I look in their drug cabinet, there's expired medications in there, and where is a kid going to go potentially looking? Well, he may not go to his parents' cabinet. He may go to grandma's.
No question about that. And you can also look at when somebody comes out, if you're selling your house, they have roughly free roam to that house. Oh, let me look what the bathroom is and go in and stuff like that. So you need to hide all these things, or take them with you if you go out when you're showing a house. We actually, with that grant, we did the Meals on Wheels, and we give each senior got a bag, as well as we have them at the senior center too.
Great. So if somebody's interested in that,
Yep.
Reach out to the Senior Center. They'll help you figure out the best way to dispose of those. It's easy enough to do, and it's just one less thing to worry about. Another topic I wanted to discuss while I have you is the marijuana topic, because we hear so much about opioids, and for obvious reasons. Yeah. But a dispensary just opened up in Lowell last week,
yes.
Where these, this is going to be prevalent. There are going to be a lot of these. 3-5 years from now, it's going to be like a convenience store. And the vape issue, obviously, the nicotine side of it is important, but there's also the marijuana side where kids can do this, and they can do it, and as I'm understand it, there's really little to no odor. And so the kid can sneak into the bathroom, he can sit in his car, and you're not going to know it other than maybe the look on his face.
We don't have the old vapes that, they show you in the car, the commercials where the kids are vaping and they can't see anything because it's all vape, all smoke.
Yeah.
The new ones, there's no smoke anymore. Okay, so kid could just shut it off and put it in their pocket, and you go in there and nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's hard to detect. And we're working with the schools. The schools has asked us to help out to detect it. Now, what we've done is Westford has made vaping and smoking as the same thing. Okay, and what the school wants to do, is what they're working on doing, is making it so you can't even carry a vape in the school.
Okay. No, at any age, or
at any age,
right,
including not just kids, the teachers, teachers as well.
And we were talking too about how these vape pens. You think that it looks like a little cigarette or something. They take a lot of different shapes and forms. They can be dangerous. They can heat up. They can. What are some of these things look like? Well,
they look like a stick, not a stick. What do you call that?
A pipe almost.
UBS.
Oh yeah. Oh, a USB port.
USB port. Yeah. Okay, and that's actually how you charge them as well. But they look just like that. They might be a little bit longer. Okay, so they can actually vape in a classroom, and you would not know it.
Yeah.
And they're odorless. And you can buy the little packs that you stick on the end. So the vape is itself, and then the little packs you can buy that has the THC, which is the marijuana ingredient. That gives you the high.
Well, now there's this thing CBD, which is is sold as a medicinal product but not something that you want to just sort of stop it. I've seen it sold at gas station convenience stores.
Yes, they are.
You don't want to walk in and start vaping this stuff and not know what it does to you. And that's what's kind of scary. We haven't regulated any of this. It sounds like Westford's trying to find some ways to do it.
We have tried. Right now, the law puts that under the Department of Agriculture.
Is that right?
It has nothing to do with the Department of Public Health.
Okay.
So the Cannabis Committee has nothing to do with it either. So it's one of these things that, from talking to people, I don't know if it's up in their mind that it works, but if they have a sore wrist, they put it on and they say it works.
Yeah, my wife, who is a nurse and who doesn't use any substances other than a glass of wine, she's found it helps her sleep. But again, you don't just go and say, well, I'm going to try this. You don't know where this stuff is coming from. Talk to somebody knowledgeable, do some research before you put anything in your body. Again, we're learning how easy it is to ingest these things. Is there, in terms of marijuana and alcohol and those things that maybe some of us older people are more familiar with, is that still an issue in the high school? Is that still an issue?
Yes. Yeah. It's just right now, the opiates are the main problem.
Get so much of the
people are dying from that.
Right.
Not as much as from the alcohol.
And sometimes that can be overlooked. But you were telling me a little bit about the graduation night. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, way back when I first started, but graduation night was a tough night for the police department. We would actually double up. Our cruisers have, 2 patrolmen in each cruiser, have extra cruisers out, and we even used a ham radio organization in town to help us out a little bit. and almost every one we'd end up with some kind of a tassel, and one of the officers might get hurt here and there. So back in '86, I believe it was, there were a couple of people that got together, and they formed WASA, which is Westford Against Substance Abuse, which is a 501c3. And they've held what's called Last Night. It's WASA Last Night. And what that is the students, the high school students from the academy, sign up. They do have to put in $25, a fee of $25. And they can start coming in at 9, at 10. They have to be in by 11 o'clock. They're not allowed to leave the school. All right? And they are entertained the whole time. The gym is full of all kinds of bouncy things, games.
Food and refreshments, right?
Food and refreshments, oh my gosh.
And this is all donations.
All
thousands
donations.
and thousands of dollars.
It's almost 300 volunteers.
Wow.
Between setting up, staying all night, and breaking down. And in the morning, they're served the breakfast, and I believe they're let out at either 5:30 or 6 o'clock when they can drive, because they can't drive between, I believe it's like 1 and 5.
Mm-hmm. But it works.
It worked. We haven't had a problem, and we have the rate is probably around 95% of the students actually attend that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
When you think back to the accident you mentioned early on in the show, and that we are finding solutions. We're working together, thinking outside the box, right? And that was the last thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, is that collaborative aspect here in town. Westford, you come here for the schools. You come here because you want your kids to be in a safe place, in a safe community. And I was looking at the statistics of opioid-related deaths, and certainly a place like Lowell has much bigger challenges, or different challenges, shall we say, with poverty and other social determinants of health. But here in Westford, suddenly you went from 0, I think, in 2015 to 2 in 2016 to 7 deaths in 2017. Did that surprise you? When
Yes, and to no deaths last year.
Yeah,
which is great. And our, I believe we had 12 overdoses. Mm-hmm. But out of the 12, okay, we only recorded 5 because they happened in Westford. 7 actually happened out of Westford and went to Lowell. And we're able to get the Lowell general stats. Unfortunately, I can't get the other hospitals to initiate that because of the HIPAA rules, I guess.
Right.
But so it's not just what we see here, it's other places.
And it's a symptom of being next to Lowell, and Lowell's a wonderful city. It has its own, but it just really has some different challenges with behavioral health, and obviously that leads to substance use, but also an amazing collection of social services that are working toward this issue. I thought it was interesting, of course, Lowell has different resources as well, a smaller town like Westford. There's a lot here. You guys are doing quite a bit for a town that we wouldn't think of as having these different
Well, we're trying to do that, trying to be ahead. I mean, I belong to an organization which is funded through the state. 2 of them. One is MOPSI, which is a Massachusetts Opioid Abuse Prevention Collaborative.
Nice job.
I know, and I have to think. And that is, that's Lowell, Dracut, Tewksbury, Billerica, Chelmsford, and Westford. Okay, and we meet every other month and see what's going on, and the state funds that. They'll fund for us to go to conferences to learn what's going on, and and I've been to a couple of national conferences, and it's amazing what you can learn there, how other people do it. But just talking to these people like myself, who have different titles, but we do the same thing. I never thought of doing it that way. That's the big thing. I never thought of doing it that way.
With that in mind, I have a 6-year-old daughter. I think, I hopefully don't have to worry about her right now, but in 6, 7, 8 years, who knows what the new thing will be. But, as you get into schools and you're working with some of these different parent groups, and what is the message to parents that, that are thinking about this, that are worrying about it, that are seeing this and saying, well, maybe I should think outside the box, and maybe my kid isn't doing everything he's saying is. What's the message you try to get across?
The main message is, don't think it's not my kid, okay? It really is important to keep an eye on them. You don't have to hover over them,
Right.
but you really need to keep an eye on them.
Are there certain signs that when a kid starts to venture down this road, I mean, there's the obvious things like bloodshot eyes, lethargy.
But they turn quiet. They want to be by themselves now. You know, they just want to be with their friends. Okay, they may change their clothes.
Right.
Okay, and they may act differently. They may stay out later, but as they get older, they'll probably stay out anyway. You know, don't be afraid to find out. You know, where you going, and if they're going to a party, find out. Yeah, ask the parents. Are you having a party there? Is somebody going to be there?
Right. Right.
You know, and if I may say, we have this program that's called Table Talks in Westford. Westford Table Talks, and what it is I try and find a volunteer that will let me use their house, and they can invite up to 10 people, hopefully 5 to 10 people of their friends. And it's 2 hours and it's 2 nights. And all it is basically just like you and I sitting here talking. They see a small PowerPoint on what's going on. And it's mostly high school. We'll do middle school, but it's mostly high school. And one of the things that I hear almost every time is, I thought I was the only one dealing with that. And these people are friends. They know, but you know, you don't want to, if you think your child's doing drugs, you don't want to miss that. You know what I mean? You don't want to tell the world about it.
Are the kids in the room for this, or is this strictly for adults?
No, this is strictly parents.
Yeah, so it's an open forum.
Yep, and it's just a nice little casual thing, and I'm always looking for people to volunteer their house and get some friends.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I think a theme that I picked up from you and talking about your police career, and then this is a little bit of accountability for your kids is not a bad thing. Whether it was you telling the kid to go to court for having a little bit of marijuana when he was younger, or now, but just a little bit of communication. I think it feels like coming out of the DARE years, there's the shaming, the finger wagging maybe isn't as effective. You need to let them open up. I'll try to get them to talk.
Yes, yes.
And of course, for teenagers, that's
very
easier said than done. And many kids push back on their parents anyway at that age. But just a little bit of attention goes a long way.
And we have a drug counselor in town too.
That's great.
Okay.
Well, and that was the last thing I wanted to bring up. We're almost done out of time here. But if people want to learn more, if they think, you know what, it's time for me to just reach out, how would they reach you?
The health department. Just give the health department a call, and they'll transfer you to me. And I work mostly mornings because I'm only working part-time, but I will definitely get back to you.
And there's also these parent groups and whatnot. If I saw on the Westford website, there's a lot of those resources.
The Westford Parent Connection is very big, and you have Westford Against Substance Abuse. WASA is another one that always looking for people to help out.
And as you say, as I've learned through the task force and various other avenues, you'll be fascinated. And if you get involved with these things, you're going to learn a lot there's some amazing people in this area that are really taking this on and making a difference.
To it, yes,
and we've seen the numbers go down, which is amazing. So thank you all for being here. Ray, thank you so much for this half hour whizzed by.
Yes, it did.
And we'll be back again another time on Complete Connected Care.